Good morning, my American Studies 140 students. This is your Professor Donald Earl Collins. Today is the beginning of week one and the first week of a new semester. I've already recorded lecture notes for lectures for this entire course multiple times over the course of the last couple of years, so you will not get any new recordings around that. But I do want to do an overview of what we're doing in this class over the next, I guess, 3.5, 4 months. Um, this is no longer a new situation we're in now. This is our parts of the third full semester plus summer where AU and the rest of the university community has been in some sort of online learning, whether it's hybrid learning with some face-to-face contact or just strictly online learning with asynchronous and synchronous components to various courses. We are required by AU to meet around the same time that we would normally meet if we were meeting in person. So that means that we will still be meeting via Zoom on Wednesdays at around 11:20. But as you probably have already noticed through the emails and announcements I've posted over the last few days, we are meeting on Wednesdays for only about an hour, maybe an hour and 5, hour and 10 minutes at most. Why is that? Even though it is a block course, even though we're technically scheduled to meet for 2.5 hours, the truth of the matter is, as someone who has taught, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 or 50 online courses and hybrid courses, not only at AU over the past year, but over the last 13 years at University of Maryland University College, which is now University of Maryland Global Campus, I can tell you for a fact, students tune out after an hour. You can maybe get them to 75 minutes, and then after that, students tune out. Some students tune you out the moment they're in class because they don't want to be in class anyway, right? And I see that in regular classes where you guys show up for a block class and just have your head down for 2.5 hours. So the truth of the matter is that we're only meeting for an hour and 15 tops if we have something big to discuss. What does that really mean? It basically means that it means several things. For one, the class will be devoted to discussion. Your Zoom meetings are for discussion primarily, to discuss readings, to discuss materials that you might have listened to or watched over the week, to answer questions you might have about things you don't understand from the lecture notes, from the video summaries of lectures, from reading materials and other audiovisual materials that are part of this course. So that's one thing. It also means that I am highly dependent on you guys to do the work, to show up for class, prepared to discuss whatever you've read, whatever you've watched, whatever you listened to, any observations you have on a particular topic regarding DC, all of those sorts of things. In other words, you have to be self-motivated. You have to rely primarily on yourself to get the work done. You have to be very self-directed. That also means being organized. I know a lot of you are used to the cramming process of just cramming the information as fast as you can in order to take a midterm or a final or to write a paper at the last minute. That's not really going to work under these circumstances. I tell students this every semester. You know, if I held my breath long enough, and in terms of the amount of time I've told students this, I would have been dead years ago, and probably all my family would be too. That's how stubborn and undisciplined many students can be in terms of just doing the basics. Read. I'm not asking you. Most weeks, that's literally what I'm asking you to do is just read your material. So, and the most important thing for you to do this first week, whether it's the article by Hedgepath or something else, more than anything else, is to read the syllabus. I've gotten normally as part of this classroom process for the first day, I make you spend 20 to 30 minutes on the syllabus, or I'll go over it for upwards of 45 to make sure that you understand key points in it. And I'm not going to have that kind of time. Even if I did another video for it, most of you probably wouldn't watch it. So I'm not going to spend all my time trying to get you to read the syllabus. It is 17 pages long. The last 2 pages are basically materials in case you guys need help. Counseling, if something major happens, like God forbid someone assaults you, or you discovered you have a learning disability, you're struggling in the course, you don't know how, you want to work on your writing, that kind of stuff. You need other kinds of counseling because incidents have happened that have stressed you out, like the pandemic, like January 6th, something along those lines. That information's there for you. But about a third of the syllabus is literally the class schedule. Another third of it is the assignments for the course. And there are several pages for the required readings for this course and supplemental readings for this course as well. So there's that. I don't think there's anything else major to bring up in terms of that other than please do the readings around that. I want to go over a few key highlights, though, to think about in terms of the course as a whole, and in terms of the themes of the course. Number one, I tell students this every time we start the course. This course is misnamed. This course is called Washington, D.C., Life Inside a Monument, which makes most students think that this course is an easy A because all this course deals with is the construction of buildings between the Lincoln Memorial and the U.S. Capitol building. And obviously, that is part of D.C., but it's only a small slice of D.C. That's tourist D.C. That's the D.C. where where National Park Service folks meet with, quite frankly, mostly white folks from across the United States. Mostly either kids or people over the age of 50 like myself. I'm 51, by the way. And shows you the oohs and ahs of, the glory that is Washington, D.C. in terms of the Washington Monument and the Smithsonian buildings. And here's the reflecting pool here where the ducks are hanging out and the geese are too. Here's the Vietnam Memorial. Here's the Korean War Memorial. Here's the Jefferson Memorial. Here's the FDR Memorial. Here's the Lincoln Memorial. Let's go through all of that. Oh, there's the White House over there. And here's the Lafayette Park over there. And great, that's all wonderful. It's like 5% of this course. The course is really designed to teach you about who lives here. who's lived here over time, who's lived and died here, who have people who have led ordinary lives, black folk, white folk, other folks of color, immigrant folk, suburbanites who live in suburban Maryland, who live in Northern Virginia, and all the different issues that we face in a modern city the modern city that D.C. is, just like any other American city in that sense. Other than the fact that it's the nation's capital, where all kinds of crazy crap happens on a regular basis. But hey, that's also part of the story too. But I want you to know that most of the story has nothing to do with monuments. We'll spend probably the equivalent of about maybe 2 weeks out of the course that deals with this official part of DC that most of you guys have had some experience with. So we're learning about people, we're learning about change over time, we're learning about cultures, we're learning about distinctive neighborhoods across DC, not just Georgetown, by the way, folks, right? Not just Georgetown, not just Tinleytown, not just Northwest, but other parts of cities that probably most of you haven't even heard of, have never been to, probably are scared to go to. Your parents have probably warned you off about because it's dangerous and violent, as if the rest of the country isn't dangerous and violent, as we've discovered over the last, I shouldn't say I've known for pretty much my whole life this country is violent. For most of you, it's probably a new discovery that, wow, this country is pretty violent, right? Okay, outside of school shootings, right? That kind of thing. But anyway, so that's the course in a nutshell. We're looking at, through a multidisciplinary approach, the history and culture of D.C. as it evolves between the 17th century and today, with the bulk of our time spent in the period pretty much after 1950. That's probably about half the course, maybe 2/3 of the course. The first part of the course is basically overall giving you the overview of the history of how this place has evolved from basically marshland and swampland into the most powerful city on the face of the planet. Unfortunately, we're still the most powerful city on the face of the planet, but within the most powerful country on the face of the planet, with lots and lots and lots of issues that makes us very lethal and dangerous to the rest of the world as well. So there's that. So we're going to be dealing with those issues. We're going to be dealing with issues that deal with geography, with governance, with race and racism, sex and gender and sexism, gender identity and um, LGBT life, immigrant life, suburbanization, gentrification, all those other things are all part of the course. So I just wanted to make sure you do that and understand that. You have essentially four major pieces of things to do in order to earn the A or A minus that you'll most likely earn in this course. Most students who take this course, that's the grade they get because that's the way I've designed the course. Hopefully, if you do the things I ask you to do, you will get the grade that you want. And those things break down into discussion, which I've already talked about, Zoom discussion. Um, Throughout the semester, we'll have a couple of weeks where we're not really going to do much discussion, but generally, whether it's in small group, one-on-one, or as a larger group, that's what we'll be doing during our Zoom hours. It's worth 20% of your grade. Another 20% of your grade basically is for reflections. These are self-reflections. This is not just you regurgitating everything that you read the first 3 weeks or between weeks 3 and 8 and whatnot. It's you taking a reading or two and then talking about how that impacted you personally, as well as whether you understand it and can analyze it. So it's a combination of you doing the normal show me what you learned the last couple of weeks, but also telling me how it impacted you on a personal basis, right? Normally, I would include things like go on a self-guided tour. We're not doing that this semester, hopefully. Um, and even if things restrictions do ease up and you're able to do some of that, that's fine. If you do a virtual one, that's great too. You can write about that. I might put a couple of those up in announcements over the course of the semester. But the truth of the matter is most virtual tours aren't really that good. And, it's not like the real thing. It's not like a virtual tour of the Louvre or anything like that. So, and most virtual tours tend to be indoors. That's the other thing. I mean, you know, as you know, the course is mostly not about museums. So going to museum really doesn't help you learn more about DC. Okay, so there's that. And then, and by the way, those are worth 5% each, 20% total. You have a term paper that's due around week 7 or 8. I think that's May 7th, right? So, look at the syllabus to be sure, but it's May 7th. March 7th. And it's on the book Black Flu Geographies, which looks at issues around food access and gentrification and other issues revolving around DC, say post 1950. Suburbanization, white flight, black middle class flight, those kinds of things. So there's that. It's 4 to 6 pages, worth 22.5% of your grade. So, not quite a quarter. 1 over 4.5% of your part of your grade. So, and then finally, you have a project, a DC or DMV related project where you look at some aspect of what's happening in DC or cultures exist in DC, how things evolved around that particular issue or problem or topic, and follow through by writing what I call an executive summary and doing some sort of presentation, either as an individual or as part of a group. That's a semester-long process that really kicks into high gear once we get past add drop period in week 3, and especially in week 5 if you decide that you want to work with someone to do that or you want to do it by yourself. Alternatively, you could just write an 8 to 10 page research paper on that topic. Read the syllabus. There's 3 to 4 pages worth of material just on doing that project, because that is the single most important thing you'll do in this course all semester. And they're easier to do if you can do these things in person. Obviously, I've been able to do this for the last 4 times I've taught this course with a certain degree of lack of access due to the pandemic, so it is doable. There's been some excellent projects. I'll post some of those as the semester progresses so that you have those, so that when you decide to sit down and figure out what your topic is going to be. Not going to literally copy one of those, I'd hope, but you'd have some template for looking at going, oh, so they did this. That looks like a good way of doing that. And, writing this up, this is a good way of doing a video presentation. Maybe I'll do a podcast instead. Go ahead and look up some of the topics I have now. You're not limited to those topics. You can pick other ones. You can pick anything really that you're interested in. I've taken some topics down because they've been overdone. Like I've probably looked at 8 or 9 projects over the last 2 years that have dealt with some aspect of development along the metro or along suburban lines, whether it's the purple line, the silver line, new metro construction, metro issues. I don't want to read another report or another executive summary or watch another video presentation on that again. So topics off. If you can find something to talk about regarding metro bus systems or sharing bike lanes or whatever else around transportation, it's fine. No more metro rail. It's completely out. So is Georgetown for the most part, unless you're doing something very specific like Duke Ellington School for the Arts or something. Georgetown's also off limits simply because there's just been too many projects on it. Plus, there's just so much whining from you guys, and I'm overgeneralizing, but from some folks at AU about, oh, I wish we could go to Georgetown. Well, why are you at AU? I mean, I don't understand that. So anyway, those are the things to think about in terms of the course as a whole. The one thing I should add is that for the project, you will not receive a grade on your project until you have turned in the final draft, until your peers have reviewed that project along with me. At that point, I will take all those reviews into account, as well as my own knowledge of your progression on this project in the course of the semester, and determining your final grade on that project. And I will factor it into your final grade as a whole. So it's mostly an ungraded process where I give you qualitative feedback and you follow up on that feedback. I've found that if I give students grades every step of the way, all they do is look at the grade. They never look at what I'm trying to tell them to do. Right? Here are things that you need to do to make this better. But my grade says it's a 92. I'm doing fine. It's a 92 at this point of the process. It doesn't mean it's going to be a 92 at the end. Do what I ask you to do. Do what other people might suggest that you should do, and come up with a better product. That's all I'm trying to do for you guys. So I'm trying to make this a stress-free situation that was possible. So there will definitely be some flexibility around deadlines. That does not mean that you get to hand in everything late. It just means that if you have a legitimate excuse for not being able to turn in something, you're feeling stressed out, you can talk to me about those things. My best days to meet as I have on the syllabus are basically Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I have to carve out some time for myself too. I teach another course, another university where I work with a whole nother group of students, for one. And, quite frankly, just like you guys need some flexibility with your time, so do I, right? In terms of dealing with my own stress, my own anxiety, my own depression, my own issues around dealing with the pandemic, dealing with things like the January 6th insurrection. And for those of you who think that insurrection's too harsh a word, I don't know what else you're supposed to call it, to be quite honest. I mean, I don't know what you call a group of somewhere between 7 and 10,000 people storming the Bastille, in this case the U.S. Capitol, looking for folks to hunt down and beat up and possibly maim and kill, whether there be Republican or Democrat or Vice President or Speaker of the House or, Sergeant at Arms and whomever. Stringing it up, guillotining them, bringing in zip ties and bringing in flashbangs and tear gas and mace and, and hundreds of and beating up cops and putting people in the hospital and killing them. I don't know what you call that. You could call it a riot if you want, but a riot usually is not that organized, right? Riots usually are mobs who storm things spontaneously. Not people who hear a speech for an hour and then go to the Capitol building and try to sack it. That's more of an insurrection than it is a riot. You can call it one or you can call it both, actually. So, So, those for you who don't like that idea, well, I don't know what to tell you. So, um, you know, hopefully you will, get over your disillusionment over reality that we're living through really weird and dangerous times. So that's all I can say about that. But that gives you a taste of me trying to be the professor I am, the teacher I am. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm not going to, how can I put this? I'll try to be as diplomatic as possible whenever possible, but I'm not going to just say, oh, that was just a minor, thing. This is big stuff. This is kind of stuff that you don't see necessarily all the time around here. I mean, violence is normal, but not this kind of violence. So, anyway, I'm digressing. So this is all the stuff I wanted you to have right up front to be thinking about regarding our discussions, the syllabus, the course as a whole, my expectations of you, my expectations of myself, those sorts of things. I will talk to you more at length. Hopefully, for those who are taking the option of meeting with me tomorrow, even though tomorrow's technically an off day, I just want to give you guys a chance to introduce yourselves, air how you're feeling in terms of where you are right now, what you were hoping to get out of this course, and other things. And I just want to talk to you and just introduce myself so that we can, so that when week 2 starts, we're not doing this whole introduction thing a week and a half into the semester that's supposed to be a relatively less stressful than the past couple semesters, especially with everything that's been going on. So that's it. Hopefully, I'll see some of you tomorrow. For those of you who decide to not take the option of meeting with me tomorrow, it is perfectly fine. You're not being graded for the first week anyway because, tomorrow's technically a day off. So I'll see you for week 2. Otherwise, good luck, everybody, and stay safe and sane.